In this tutorial I will show you how to use layer clipping in Adobe Photoshop. That's also a very important tool for working with layers. So in the previous tutorial we created an adjustment layer here which makes this pattern on all the layers that lie below it. So it's this one. So it affects all the layers which are below it. The only layer it doesn't affect is this one here, which lies above it. So adjustment layers, they work downward. But now suppose that I just want this pattern only on this shape here and I don't want it elsewhere. So what I can do is I can press the Alt key and then move my cursor just in the middle between these two layers. And you see my cursor turns into this little down arrow sign. Now if I click it, what will happen, I will get this down arrow over here, as you see. And this means that this layer now will affect only the layer immediately below it to which it is clipped, and will not affect the other layers. If I want to remove this, I press the Alt key, I move my cursor here to the separating line between these two layers, and here again my cursor, as you see, turns into this down arrow. So if I click it again, this will release the clipping, and so this adjustment layer will work on all layers that lie below it. I can do that also differently. So by going to layer, so activating this layer first and then going to layer and just saying here create clipping mask, and the shortcut for that is Alt Control G. So if I press on this, the same will happen. So I can again release this clipping mask by pressing the Alt key and releasing it. Okay. What I also can do, if I just want, for example, to this adjustment to work on two layers, like this and this. So what I can do, I can group these two by pressing Ctrl G. So now I have these two layers in a group, and then go here and say again layer, create clipping mask. Yeah, and then as you see, it will affect the whole group which is immediately below it. It affects these two layers which are in this group, alright, and doesn't affect all other layers. This means basically, this is very convenient because this means that if I have a composite image of many layers, I can basically adjust every layer separately. So I go here, I want this to be a little darker. Yeah. So what I do, I create a new adjustment layer, like let us say brightness contrast, and make it darker. Okay. And then say, okay, yes, but I want this only for this layer. I press the Alt key, click here, and so now I have made only this one layer a little dark. And now I want this layer, for example, to have slightly more contrast, so I take a new adjustment layer here, I go to curves, and I increase contrast, for example. Alright? And then I say yes, but I only want this for this one layer, so I go here and say layer and create clipping mask, and so then this adjustment will work only on this one layer which lies below it. So basically I can adjust every layer separately without affecting the others, and that's very convenient. Another nice thing there is about clipping is that clipping can be used not only for adjustment layers, but for any layer. And it works exactly the same. So, for example, imagine that I want now to have some stripes on this dress. So what I do, I can add a layer on top of this. I can take a brush, draw some nice stripes over here. All right. And then I just go here, press the Alt key and clip it. This is what will happen. So this shows two things. First of all, I can clip normal layers to layers below them, and the second thing is that I can add more layers clipped to the same one on top of each other. So this is clipped to this layer and this is clipped to this one, so they both are clipped to this one layer. And here, then let me change now, for example, the blending mode and say, let's make it like overlay here. No good. Let's make it multiply here, yeah, and change the opacity a little bit so it looks more natural. It doesn't really, but that's all right. So I have this now clipped only to this layer, and the other parts are not affected. If I release this clip, like layer, release clipping mask, then these stripes will stick out in a very ugly fashion out of this. But I can avoid this again by clipping this down. So, well, that's basically all about clipping masks. I just want you to experiment with this as well. And if you need some more explanations, just look it up on YouTube. There are lots of tutorials. That's it. Thank you.